This is the HP 15GW0502SA. I know, what a catchy name, it just rolls off the tongue. It's a laptop I acquired in a 100-pound laptop challenge with Tech When. It's not an old laptop, it came out in 2020. It is a budget laptop that competes alongside a series of Acer and Dell machines with Celerons and Pentium Golds. It's not exactly a well-loved laptop. Just about every review I can find has complained of it being slow. I can personally attest to this. Using it with its factory-installed Windows copy when I first got it was truly shocking. The amount of bloatware it has been filled with was bringing its already very slow hard drive to its knees. And 4 gigs of RAM in a computer from 2020? It's just wild. But otherwise, I actually think it has a lot of potential. It's very light, it has a decent enough screen, fantastically fast Wi-Fi, a reasonable webcam, good I/O, a decent sized battery, and a very power efficient processor, even if it may not have a lot of horsepower, but more on that later. Tonight's video is about trying to see if we can take the bad parts of this laptop and turn them for good. So if that sounds good to you, get yourself a cup of tea or a beer if that's more your thing, and come along for the ride. Before jumping into the specs, a quick recap. I'm not sure what this laptop would have cost new, but we got ours for £100. In terms of I/O, there's Ethernet, HDMI, USB-C, and headphone out mic in on the left, and on the right SD card and 2 USB 3 ports as well as the charging input. In terms of weight, coming in at 1.74 kilos, it's not a heavy laptop by any means. Dimensionally, it's quite thin, and despite being a 15.6-inch display, its dimensions aren't too big either. In terms of its display, it's perfectly workable and honestly not bad for a laptop of its price. It's HD 1080p and has an anti-glare coating. However, it is let down by its 220 nit brightness and its low color accuracy, but the thin bezel makes up for it perhaps. In terms of the processor, it's a dual-core, dual-thread Athlon Silver 3050U. It's a strange chip in the sense that it's clocked at 3.2 GHz, it has the Zen architecture, but it's only 15 watts, so it's by no means a powerhouse. If we compare it to some other chips to give you a point of reference, you can see how it's beaten by an i5 2400, and a Pentium G3 258 gets pretty close, so does a Core 2 Quad. And as you can see, even an i3 4130 or an i7 4790K, of course, will absolutely smoke it. So it's by no means a powerhouse, but it's perfectly workable. Comparing it to AMD chips to give those on the AMD side a bit of reference as well, As we can see, it does beat an FX 4300 and an A10, comes narrowly close to a Phenom 2X4, but is just beaten by an FX 6300, and as you can see, even a Ryzen APU like a 2400G will smash it. In terms of graphics, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. We've got Radeon RX Vega 2 graphics. There are only 2 compute units here, but there are 128 pipelines. It uses shared video memory with the system memory, and it will go up to 15 gigs because the maximum supported memory with this CPU is 32. But it does have decent support for APIs with DirectX 12 and Vulkan. In terms of performance though, when we do put it up against some other graphics cards to give you a point of reference, we can see that it's not exactly a powerhouse. It is beaten by a 5770 or a GT 1030 by a significant margin, but its support for newer APIs does allow it to get its foot in the door with a lot of games. In terms of other features, it's got a 3619 mAh battery, it fast charges, a decent microphone, and of course a low power chip. So that's the HP laptop we have. It came originally with 4 gigs of memory and a 1TB hard drive. It's also got Wi-Fi 5, which is fantastic. But all of that's going to change as we pop in 32 gigs of RAM to replace the 4, and yes, a 128 gig SSD to fix that seriously slow hard drive. But before we do that, let's take a look at how the laptop is before the upgrades, just so we can feel how much of a difference they've made. TechWin and I, we were talking about what's the worst hard drive manufacturer.
Oh boy.
And I am honoured to have just that. I have a Toshiba a Toshiba hard drive that is right now, yes it's 1TB, but right now I'm doing nothing, it's at 100%. But then I think I have found the cause. My arch nemesis is here.
Oh boy. It's all there, isn't it?
Oh my. No wonder that poor little Toshiba is just working its little heart out. McCafe is it. This is not good.
No.
This needs to go.
This would be destruction worthy, I reckon.
Close to it.
Yeah.
If I didn't have an $100 PC.
Yeah. If you didn't have to rely on this hard drive.
Yes. This drive would come right out and this software would come with it. And
yeah.
I'm so tempted to just do a clean install on this bastard. It's a part of me is like, it's not even worth trying to redeem this. It just needs fresh Windows 10.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, absolutely.
It's that bad. I think this is the first time I've seen in a long time a computer completely bottlenecked by its hard drive, where you just click and nothing happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you wait, and then the start menu appears 30 seconds later.
Yes.
I haven't felt that on a computer in years. I haven't had that experience of like click and wait. It's getting a clean install. I have truly never encountered a hard drive that has caused as many problems as this one. All I have done here for reference is opened the settings menu. This has been going on for 4 minutes now. It is just wild how bad the hard drive is. And this is with the new install of Windows 10 without the bloatware. I can't imagine what this would be like before with the bloatware. Did anyone at HP think to test this computer? I've never encountered a hard drive as bad as this. It is awful. Absolutely awful. I cannot wait to put this SSD in. Oh my gosh. What a difference some RAM, an SSD and a clean install can make. It's like I'm not even using the same laptop. It's crazy how much that hard drive held this little HP back. Boot time has gone from 1:20 to less than 30 seconds. From desktop to YouTube, the time is more than halved. Opening Discord and a game off the internal drive has gone from a painful 5 minutes to just over 1, and the Crystal Disk Mark scores speak for themselves. But what I am most excited to see is how the RAM has let that little Radeon finally stretch its legs. Now with 32 gigs of RAM under its belt, we can finally take a proper look at what the Athlon Silver and Vega 2 graphics can do in today's games. A game I was really excited to try on this machine was Red Dead Redemption 2. While looking at the inbuilt benchmark, the numbers aren't exactly going to blow your hair back, but when capturing this footage, I actually had so much fun playing this first little part of the game that I ended up playing through a surprising amount of the story on this little HP. And despite the frame rate not being too high, there were no graphical glitches or issues with sound. The game just runs.
It'll be okay. We need to get out of here, and quick! Come on now. Oh.
Due to its more narrative-based structure and slower pace, the game is actually quite playable on this PC. albeit with a pretty significant visual sacrifice.
I think that's all of them.
I wanted to include at least one popular newer game in the benchmarks, so I put a poll on Twitter and you guys voted for Helldivers 2. While this one did start and run, whether you would call it playable is certainly a matter of opinion. Visually, it may look like Helldivers 2 was ported to the Nintendo 3DS, but if you can move past the graphics, you can still play a fair bit of this game, albeit with the occasional hitch. For example, I'm not that sure if his arm is supposed to move like that, or if your character is supposed to be running rather than hovering. I found this particular moment here quite funny, where I threw a grenade, the dramatic music stopped, and the PC just had to have a moment to think. Given how well Radeons usually handle Vulkan games, I was keen to see how the little RX Vega 2 would do with Doom Eternal. While the settings did have to be lowered to beyond potato level, I still think it's really impressive to see this little Vega GPU offering up a reasonable playable experience in a game as new as this one. Fortnite was a game that refused to work with 4 gigs of RAM, so I was quite curious to see how it would do after the upgrade. And honestly, it was a bit of a mixed bag. At 720p native, it is playable but struggles to stay above 30 when lots is going on. However, once we reduced the resolution scaling right down to Nintendo DS levels, the game ran beautifully and never went below 30, even when lots was going on. Perhaps the only problem here is at this quality level, it's actually somewhat difficult at times to differentiate what is an enemy and what is just an object in the distance. However, the frame rate bump is perhaps worth the cost, but I'll leave that up to you. GTA 5 really struggled with 4 gigs of RAM, so I was pleased to see it's substantially smoother with the 32. I was able to steal a jet and enjoy the sights of Los Santos as I flew around. While things may not have rendered in at light speed, it remained reasonably smooth. Even on a high-speed police chase, it's very playable with only occasional bits of stutter. However, the built-in benchmark on GTA 5 interestingly revealed that it's not the Vega 2, but rather the Athlon Silver CPU that was holding things back. Buildings struggled to render and the floor disappeared several times in the benchmark run. Counter-Strike 2 was humorously bad on 4 gigs of RAM, so our expectations were already quite low. And while the HP did do a lot better in this game with the upgrade, it still did struggle with intermittent stutter no matter what settings we ran it at. If you're thinking of becoming a Counter-Strike pro, perhaps you should consider a slightly more powerful machine. Vega 2 might not be for you. Overwatch was another one where the bar was set so low that it wouldn't take much to beat it. On 4 gigs of RAM, the stutter was hard to bear. However, with the 32, the HP did a lot better. It was able to hold itself above 30 most of the time, which may not be ideal, but it's perfectly playable. However, we can tell that the little Athlon CPU is once again holding the Vega graphics back. That CPU bottleneck didn't get in the way too much, but it did rear its ugly head at times with occasional bits of stutter here and there. For the other games, I don't have as much to say, so let's just roll the traditional green marks to see how things have improved. In times of transition in life, it's nice to have one consistent thing. I think that's one of the reasons why we develop such deep relationships with our computers. They are like these little faithful friends that stick with us through the good and the bad. Laptops add another dimension to that by being a faithful friend that can actually be physically with us on the journey as well. That's how I've felt about this HP. I got it in the UK with Owen. We made a great video together about it. I tolerated its faults and I stuck with it even when it drove me mad until I could finally get it some RAM and an SSD. This humble little machine has been my one consistent thing in amongst the weirdness of returning to my home in Sydney. We've had some good times together. It kept me entertained on the plane, where I played bully on it for hours on end. I know it's not a powerhouse, as Owen found in our comparison video. For gaming at least, it makes more sense to spend your money on an old workstation laptop than a newer, thin and light if your budget is limited. So it's not the fastest laptop. However, I think that with its Athlon Silver and Vega 2 graphics, it's a testament to the underdog, the unseen and underrated, going beyond what we expect. And that's what this channel has always been about. To quote a viewer, it's not about shaming low hardware for being slow. It's about celebrating a PC for every little bit of performance that it can give. It filled me with such joy to see this HP playing games like Red Dead and Doom Eternal. It really overcame the odds and went way beyond what I expected. I'm hoping this adventure with this little HP will help to remind you of the magic that can be found in low-end hardware, where it's not about having the best, but rather about making the most of what's in your hands. I could have bought another laptop, but I really believed in the potential of this little HP. Maybe I am just a bit of an AMD fanboy, but I wanted to see what this Athlon and little Radeon could do if you gave them what they needed to perform. Perhaps I'm a bit insane for putting 32 gigs of RAM in it, but at least it gave this little PC a chance to shine and show what it can really do. So if you've got a beverage, let's raise a toast. Let's toast to the joy that low-end PCs can bring when they rise above the odds. And rather than tear them down, let's be grateful for whatever performance they are willing to give us. Thanks again for watching, and good night. We have the Mac Mini capturing all of our footage, and the Samsung T7 SSD there.
It sucks. This PC with this hard drive is a piece of... Much better, thank you. Oh, there he is, the bosin.
Yes, like your hands on yourself.
The bosin. The bosin. The bosin. The bosin. The bosin. The bosin. Bosin.